Hi everyone, good afternoon from Lagos, Nigeria. Welcome to another episode of the African Farmer Stories, where we basically talk about farmers, we profile great farmers from across Africa. We talk about the challenges that they face, and of course, we don't just talk about challenges, we also talk about solutions. We've been privileged to speak to farmers from across the boundaries in Africa, from Kenya to Uganda to Ghana to Nigeria. And today we are going to be speaking with two amazing farmers or players in the agricultural value chain. One of them is personally my friend, and I only have awesome friends, right? Anyways, every week this episode is brought to you by the Support for Africa SMEs initiative, and in conjunction with Business Day and Clark Energy, Full Range Microfinance Bank, and some very amazing people in the background that you never get to see, just me. So we're waiting for our first speaker. I'm trying to get him on the call. So trying to see if he comes around. Hi Victoria, hi Dr. Oludayo, hi everyone that has just joined. Waiting for the first speaker to come on. So while we wait, you know how food is really, really, really important. How many of you can go a day without eating? Don't tell me what if you fast. Even when you're fasting, you definitely be hungry. And we definitely see the importance of agriculture in sustenance, in longevity. And we think that because these people are very important to us, we need to also talk about them. We need to speak about the challenges that they face. Without food, your health workers will not be able to do what they ought to do, will not be able to, serve you in the best of their capacity. Without food, your security operatives and the security institutions are not able to operate. I mean, without food, your lawmakers are not able to legislate. So food is really, really important. I'm still waiting for the speaker to come on. So sorry, still waiting for the speaker. With technology, we have all sorts of challenges at the beginning. So I think our speaker is in. Just 1 second. We're trying to get the speaker on. Okay. Yeah. Hi everyone. Hi Dimeji. Hi Funke. Hey, hi Mama. Hi Mama, can you hear me? Seems like I'm having a bit of network issues. Hi Mama.
Okay. Hi, I can hear you now.
Awesome. How you doing? How's everything?
Everything's fine, thank you.
Okay, everyone, Mamurr is an amazing Gambian entrepreneur. I mean, we won't be able to go through his story, but he has an amazing story of what got him into entrepreneurship in the first place. But today we'll be talking about your role in the agricultural value chain, and that's your role with Tropingo Foods. So can you just, introduce yourself to us and introduce the work that you do?
My name's Mamurr. Thanks again for having me on the platform. So we're Tropingo Foods. We're basically a food processing company based in Gambia. We mainly focus on exports of mangoes, various different local tropical fruits to different parts of the world. It's also active in the groundnut peanut sector. The idea is to add value to things that we grow in abundance locally and share that with the world.
Interesting. So how did Tropingo Food start?
How did it start? A long time ago, I decided to move back to Gambia from Canada and find a way to, of course, add value to local foods. So we started by trading peanuts, which is the most widely grown commodity in Gambia, trading it to exporters, and slowly graduated to becoming an exporter. From there, yes, that's how we started.
And so let's talk challenges. I usually don't like to talk challenges first, but I mean, let's just get right into it. What has been the major challenges that you have faced in building, I mean, this brand, this company from, that idea you had to a company that services, your country and employs so many people?
The challenges, every day there's a new challenge, to be honest. I would say the ones that are most consistent was raising the finance, because we literally started with nothing. So making sure that we had enough finance to start and to grow sustainably and to manage our cash flow was one of our biggest challenges. Luckily, we've that's where we met through the Tony Elemele Foundation. There's been some grant support there, and our ability to be able to save and just build organically has really paid off. So yes, the access to finance, I'm sure everybody, any young entrepreneur in Africa that you interview speaks on that. So we've just had to be very, very creative in how we raise finance and how we manage our finance. Other things, the technical capacity of the team. What we're doing, we have the first mango dehydration factory in Gambia, and it's never been done here in Gambia. So you could imagine the technical expertise for this business did not exist at all. So we had to build that from scratch. We had to rely on a lot of expensive consultants. We had to basically learn on the job. Then you have the other issues of logistics. We're an export-based company. We're sourcing from multiple regions all around Africa. We're selling all of Africa. For example, we do sell dried mangoes to Nigeria, where you are. And it's easier for me to send my dried mangoes to China than it is for me to send it to Nigeria. So these are other challenges that we've had to face and had to overcome just to maintain the business. I believe for every challenge that an entrepreneur in a developed society has, an entrepreneur in Africa has 10 times. So yes.
Before we go into all the challenges that you mentioned, you did mention power, interestingly. Why didn't you mention power?
Power is a challenge, yes, but I guess it's just another day in the office for me now, so I'm used to it. But power is a huge issue for us here. Well, in Gambia, the electricity situation is not as severe as in Nigeria, but we do face a similar situation. And we're running off generators just like you guys are, but we also sort of solved most of our major major energy needs by investing in biofuels. So we use the waste peanuts and the waste shells from our exports to power the dehydration process. So that's been able to really help on our reliance on the national grid.
That's great. And interestingly, I know there's a story behind your solution for power, your biodegradable plant. Can you just expand on that a bit so that people will see that? So what I'm trying to show people is that you can actually find the solutions to your problem in your own, locality if you think, harder and if you try to use indigenous solutions.
So we had to think outside the box because we realized that in Gambia, Gambia has some of the highest electricity tariffs in the world, and the dehydration process is extremely demanding on electricity. Phone calls are coming in. Sorry about that. So
that's fine.
The dehydration process is extremely energy intensive, and if we were to use normal electric dehydrators, it just wouldn't be profitable, number one, and number two, it just wouldn't be sustainable because you can't really rely on the grid. So for us, what we did was we looked around. We're really big in the peanut business, and we noticed that when we're processing peanuts, we have a huge waste of peanut shells, which we discovered could be used to as the heating source for our hot water system for the drying. So we designed our factory to use the waste peanut shells and also the mango seed that is usually thrown away to be burned into biogas that powers our dehydration process rather than relying on electricity to drive the cars.
Yeah, that is amazing. And every time I meet you, I'm going to always force you to tell that story. In
Thank you.
terms of technical competency, that's one problem that every entrepreneur that I meet across the African continent always complains about. They always complain about. Well, how do you deal with that? You know, recruiting people, would I say training them, or identifying people that would eventually do well for you and your factory?
Yeah, so this is we're still figuring this out, like most young entrepreneurs. Where my approach is constant coaching, building a team of people who have the basic capacity to absorb information and make good decisions. You really need to make sure that the people around you understand their role and the value that they have to the organization and have a set target. So I'm quite a demanding, I would say, leader. I wouldn't say boss or leader, because what I'm trying to achieve, I don't think my ambitions are not similar to what has ever been achieved in Gambia. So I do expect a lot more from the people who work with me than an average job would. I'm not satisfied with people coming to work and just for the sake of coming to work. We're trying to build something here that is more than your paycheck or your salary. We're trying to build something sustainable. So, but that comes with consistent communication, consistent coaching, consistent tweaking, consistent learning. I think that's the only way, because in a place where there is a gap in skills, you have to develop that skill yourself. So everybody within our staff, when we've been fortunate enough to get some of the best experts in the world to come work with us through certain projects in terms of building capacity, building organizational structure, building processes. And it's just a matter of drilling it into the team and a matter of constantly reminding people what the goal is. As we speak, we just finished, we're working on our internal processes right now because we've seen certain inefficiencies this mango season. So we're wrapping up the mango season, and through our own internal reviews, we've found so many things that we should be doing a lot better in. And now it's just a matter of how do we communicate that to everybody in the team and make sure everybody's pulling their weight, but also being understanding and understanding that people have their limits. This is something new, so you have to be extremely patient with people. Yeah, so that's basically it. Constant coaching.
Yeah. Have you had to fire anyone?
Yeah, so many. But I really hate. I don't like confrontation. I don't like confrontation, and I don't like fire. I really hate firing people or letting people go. But luckily, I have a great HR manager now who's sitting across from me right now. It's her responsibility to do the hard stuff.
Yeah.
I've outsourced that function. Yeah, but definitely, it's part of the territory. One of the first things he told me when for advice is he's successful because he doesn't attach any sentiment to business. And I think it's very difficult to separate your sentiments and your feelings from your business. But as a founder, as a leader in the group, it's essential that you do, because sentiments can be very expensive.
Very true, very true. What is the role of the government in enabling businesses like yours, businesses that play in that agricultural value chain? What's that role that the government has to play to ensure that you all succeed? And has the government been really doing a good job in Gambia?
Yeah. This is a very tricky question because there's so much to do. The government role is to create the foundation so a business can take off from there. So when we talk about the foundations, there's certain things that businessmen cannot do. Number one is we need electricity, for example. We need to be in a society or an economy that the cost of doing business is affordable and people can make a profit, right? We need to be able to have access to logistics. So the road networks need to be in the right places so we can get our raw material to be able to export it. And we need a tax regime that is favorable to business. Now, if I was to score the government on a scale of 1 to 10, in Gambia, I'll give them a 6 to 6.5 in terms of their responsiveness to the agriculture sector. Because I do believe that their heart is in the right place. And I do believe that they're really trying to support. And to be honest, every time I've engaged the government or worked with the government, they've been extremely responsive and they've tried their best. Now, they're also facing a capacity gap like we are. So there's certain things that might be too much to ask just because as much as they want to do it, they just don't have the money, they don't have the expertise. So we have to meet halfway. Now, I'll give you an example of where we can, it's very easy to bash the government, but we can also give them credit where credit is due. So in Gambia, for example, the government over the last 12 years spent over $60 million on developing local women gardens all across the country, giving them irrigation system, fencing, and all of these things so that they can have access to market. All right. Now, after all that money was spent, there was no results because people were still not buying all the crops from the women's gardens. So these gardens were only up to 20%, 30% utilization. The rest was just rotting. Right? In that case, the government have done their part. It's up to the private sector to meet them halfway. So what we did this year when we realized that we sell mangoes for 4 months in the year, and then the rest of the year we're in peanuts, and we have really off periods where cash flow is an issue because we're in off season. We decided that we're going to go into the vegetable value chain, but we don't want to go into the farming business because that is not where our strength is. We don't have the capacity. So we worked with a bunch of the women gardens that the government have already invested all the money in to develop all those fundamental things that are needed for you to have a farm. Yeah. And we just hired some technical experts to help support the women gardens and gave them a contract farming agreements where they grow and we buy everything. So this is a perfect example of how the government can only do so much and we can only do so much. But if we meet in the middle, we can make things happen. But we're under no illusion that the government is going to be able to solve, for example, the power situation anytime soon. We have to take it into our own hands. And also the tax regime, there's so much the government can do. There's only so many roads the government can build with the money they have. And with COVID right now, all of that is out the window. So we're understanding. We understand where we are. We're not in the business of bashing governments because we understand governments are part of the development. But we do try to hold them accountable fairly. And I think that's very important.
And this takes me to the next question. And it's not really a farming question, but you mentioned that there's a capacity issue within the government, right? They can do so much. Do you think that entrepreneurs should get into government, should get into positions of power? Do you think that that's something entrepreneurs should actively advocate for or, do?
Depends on the entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs have different things that make them move. And I believe, honestly, that anybody who goes into government should go in from a place of service. I believe that oftentimes in Africa, we are very self-serving. And I think that if you have a self-serving nature, as an entrepreneur, that's fine. You can do whatever you want to do to make yourself money. But as soon as you go into public office, you should understand that you're there to serve people, serve the community, serve the country. So as long as you're an entrepreneur who's really going into government to make a change, then why not? I don't see any reason why not. But if you're going there to make things better for yourself, I think that's where I draw the line. I have examples.
Interesting perspective.
The mayor of the city that I live in, he's a 33-year-old entrepreneur, and he's doing a brilliant job. He's probably one of the leading politicians in our country, and those are shining examples of entrepreneurs who've gone into business. But they didn't go into. He didn't go into politics to enrich himself. He was already made. He went to give back. It was actually a sacrifice for him to go into government. So I think if you go in the right attitude, yes, why not?
Okay. So the government has invested in certain infrastructure, whether you're investing enough or not. The entrepreneur has done his feasibility plan, has, you put all the factors of production together, and you think you're going to have a great business, and then COVID hits. What is your advice to entrepreneurs in this period? How can they manage the impact of? I know from industry to industry it differs, but how can they manage, their business during this period and post-COVID?
I saw a very interesting quote a few weeks ago, and it said, "Success in 2020 is just surviving to 2021." We're in a period of uncertainty. Nobody knows when things will go back to normal. This could be the new normal. I have conversations on a day-to-day basis with other business people, other entrepreneurs who are in similar situations like us, who have a lot of uncertainty. And I think the common theme is survive. Try to use your entrepreneurial instinct to sniff out the opportunities that are going to keep you sustainable and survive through this period, this crisis. For us, we pivoted really quickly when we realized with our vegetable business that we export most of our vegetables to the airlines, and once the airlines shut down in Gambia, the airport has been shut down. We've scaled back that business by 80% almost. And the small volumes that we are doing, we're trucking them out of the Dakar airport because there's freight airlines going from there.
Yeah.
That's increased our cost significantly. So we're doing it. We're not making a profit from it. We're paying the bills with it. And that's a way to keep our staff employed and pay the bills. But it's not a situation where we're making a huge profit. And that's what I mean by surviving. What are the things that we're going to have to adapt to just so that we can survive before thinking about thriving? Because at the moment, what last thing you want to do is lay off 200 people who depend on you, right? So there's a lot of situations where we're just doing the business. As long as we don't lose money, we go ahead and do it just to make sure that things keep going, keep going. So survival is one. Second as well is sniff out new opportunities. Don't be so rigid in what you're used to doing. We've started looking more at the local market. We were strictly export-oriented business. In the last year, we started looking at the local market, and when COVID hit, we were forced to take the local market seriously. In Gambia, it's very different from Nigeria, where Nigeria has 200 million people. It's a huge local market. In Gambia, we're a population of 1.82 million people to the entire country. So purchasing power is low, and the market is quite low. So it's quite small. So it's a bit more difficult for us in that sense. But we've started looking at how we can help. When the government was giving relief to the farmers, we found a way that we can help with the logistics using the infrastructure that we've already invested in, that we use for our export business. We found a way to work with the government, to work with the farmers, and keep our staff busy. So there's opportunities. There's always opportunities, even in crisis. But your main goal should be to survive before we thrive, because I think it's a little bit too uncertain to be overly ambitious at this moment. Okay.
So we're rounding up because I promised it was going to be around only about 30 minutes. For entrepreneurs that are into, now we don't say export, but transforming, the raw farm produce into something more palatable or more, what I call brand worthy or more edible by the market. One of the issues that they face, and I'm talking from the Nigerian perspective, and I believe so many African countries face this issue, is that people prefer to consume the foreign or imported products to the locally made products. How do you think that entrepreneurs can solve that problem?
Sorry, you cut out a bit. What is the problem you said? The specific problem?
So the problem is people prefer imported produce, imported finished produce. How do entrepreneurs, solve that problem?
Yeah, so this is a marketing and branding issue. If you're looking at your local market, for example, if in my case, we'll look at my case. Naturally, in Africa, we tend to put an importance or an idea that the quality of imported goods is better than what is grown locally. Now, here the government has a role to play, which I won't get into because we're talking to entrepreneurs right now. What is important is you as an entrepreneur, what can you do in terms of marketing and branding to make sure that people understand that you have a better product or a competitive product? And there's two approaches. One is through your pricing. So depending on the product, depending on the sector, either your pricing is going to be cheaper or more expensive than the competition. And those both have pros and cons. A cheaper product might be easier to sell, but might come with a connotation that it's a less value. A higher product might be harder to sell, but depends on what your offering is. Now, I always say everything that we produce as Tropingo Foods should be able to stand up against any product anywhere in the world in terms of quality. So in terms of the machinery that we have at our factory, we don't have any cheap or any low-cost material. We make sure that these are the best drying factories around the world. This is what they're using. This is the standard they're using. We invest in that and we get the same product. If you invest in yourself and you have the best product, that product speaks for itself to start, right? Secondly, your branding needs to be it needs to be just as captivating as that of the importer, because an importer really only benefits from the international marketing of whatever they're importing, but they operate in the same market space as you. The only thing that's separating you now is how you market your product. So I'm not the best at marketing. A lot of people say that. I'm very good at production and all this stuff, but not marketing. And if you're somebody like me, that I have been advised to, and I will get to it one day, is spend the money and hire a marketing consultancy firm to develop your brand so you can compete not just in your local arena. Always think about how do you make your product have a global appeal. That's how you compete with products that are imported in your local arena, because those products have a global appeal, which is why they're competitive in your local arena, right? So I think that is it. I think it's all about your branding and how you value. It comes back to valuing yourself, valuing your product, giving value to people. If you give people good stuff, eventually they don't care where it comes from. We're selling mangoes from Gambia in Russia, but it's good, so they don't care where it comes from, right? So it's just as good as any quality product from anywhere else in the world, and we stand by that and we put it to the test over and over again. And if you have that confidence, I think that you should be able to compete, not just locally, but anywhere in the world.
Yeah. Thank you, Mamurr, for taking our time to speak with us. We really appreciate the time. This is time well spent, really. And hopefully we get to chat some other time in the near future.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, this chat is not yet over. We have somebody very interesting, Denis from Kenya, who will be coming on shortly. This series is called the Tell Africa Farmer Stories, and we're basically profiling people in the agricultural value chain from across Africa, providing the food to help us survive COVID and just survive and live life to the fullest. I'm trying to see if Daniel is online. Trying to get him on right now. So let's see if he would come on. And if you have questions, please just type in your questions in the chat segment, and we'll look at it. Hi, Daniel.
Dennis, hey.
How are you doing?
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you too. Thank you for honoring the invitation to actually be on this series where we profile farmers and great people doing amazing things across the agricultural value chain. So can you introduce yourself to the listeners, what you do, talk about your company, and what the problem you're trying to solve?
Oh, you want me to introduce myself?
Yeah, of course.
All right, let's do it. My name is Denis Kakui,
Hmm.
and I'm the
Oh,
lead at
Dennis,
Vert
sorry, I
International.
missed your name. I called you Daniel.
Yeah,
Dennis,
it's
yeah,
that, but happy days, yeah.
yeah.
So Denis, lead at
Mhm,
Vert International,
mhm,
which is an agri-tech company that deals with food production,
mhm,
agro-processing, and selling of fresh produce to both local and international markets.
mhm.
We as a company also are very keen on integrating green energy into our processes. So that means a lot of modern farming techniques to provide for sustainability.
Hmm. So
Mhm.
what led you on this path? Why did you say, hey, agriculture is the thing I want to do? I mean,
Mhm.
growing up,
Good.
everybody, your parents would say, hey, I want you to be a doctor. I want you to be an engineer. What led you down this path?
Mhm. Oh, good question. I come from a farming background. So the community I come from in Eastern Kenya farms for a good percentage of the year, all round, right? So after uni, I was very fortunate to intern for a lady that worked for a multinational company. And on the side, she had this farming that was somewhat large scale. And just seeing how she was able to navigate the work life at her workplace and operations at the farm, I think I drew a lot of inspiration from that. And today, this lady is my life coach and I would say my mentor, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So that for me was an easy connect to make between just being a farmer and wanting to add value to the sector. So that's why we're having conversations around green energy and technologies and innovations and such.
And since you started your business, what have you learned and that you didn't previously know in the agriculture space?
Oh, there's a lot to pick from, right?
Yeah,
But
go
I
on.
think,
Tell us all.
yeah, I think one that sticks out for me mostly is the notion that technology is only applicable in large-scale farming. So going into the space, I thought you needed to have thousands of dollars and hectares upon hectares of land for you to be able to incorporate technology. But coming in, I was able to meet entrepreneurs, both young and old, bringing up really good solutions into the space. And it's crazy to see even solutions for a kitchen garden farmer, right? That's small. So I think for me, that is the biggest assumption that I had that's definitely changed, that technology in the agriculture space can be applied at whatever scale of farming.
Mm. Any other one?
That I think is the biggest one for me. That I refer to that one all the time because it blew my mind, and
Mm.
it's amazing to see what technologies you know can be applied.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So in speaking to farmers in the last couple of weeks, one thing has always stood out, the need for farmers to learn to collaborate.
Mhm.
Because I hear that farmers are extremely competitive, and I understand. I mean, you want to
Mhm.
get the best out of your produce and all that. What are your thoughts
Mhm.
around collaboration?
For me, I think collaboration is key, and this is why I say so. Because you look at a large percentage of farmers, say here in Kenya, are small-scale farmers.
Hmm.
So they're not immediately able to set up some of the systems, some of the frameworks that would be required to scale their businesses, right? But through collaboration and through partnerships and such aggregations, we can have such small scale farmers quickly get on their feet, right? And be able to put in some of these systems that would help them grow. So competition one side, but I think largely collaboration is what would get farmers through
Hmm.
to to greater heights, if I would put it so.
Mm. And
Mhm.
so in how tell us about your farm. How large is it?
Okay. So in Kenya, we have a number of farms, but at the minute, we have one that is currently active. And this is
Hmm.
mostly because of the pandemic and the health crisis, So we significantly scaled down operations to one farm in eastern Kenya, which is about 15 acres or thereabout, right?
Mm-hmm.
And operations on these acres of farm are quite manageable this time because we are able to locally source the labor, and we are able to follow the health guidelines that have been provided by the government. So yeah, just one farm at the minute.
Mm.
Mhm.
And in managing this farm, what are you said you had to scale down, right? But what other
Mhm.
changes did you have to make to accommodate the times and season that we find ourselves in?
So well, first of all, in Kenya we have a dusk to dawn curfew, which runs from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. in the morning. So this for us was something that significantly affected our operations. Before, the curfew run from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. in the morning. So immediately we had to take the action to sort of like restructure the working hours for our workers. So then they would work normally from 8 to around 5 p.m., but we restructured so then they could work from 9 to 4 p.m. This would give them enough time to get home to their families, make dinner. So for us, that was one of the major changes we had to make. Also, we had to seek players that were accredited along the supply chain for, transportation of produce from the farm to
Mm-hmm.
market. Because as it is, you need accreditation from the government that you are an essential player and that you need to be moving across the metropolitan borders where the lockdowns are. I should have mentioned that there are lockdowns within some cities in Kenya as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so also getting players with such accreditations was for us a bit of a challenge, but we were able to navigate that with time. And as of now, things are moving quite smoothly.
Hmm. Very, very
Mm.
interesting. I like how you've creatively, found a way around the challenges to run your business because as an entrepreneur, that's what makes an entrepreneur. Seeing challenges and figuring out ways to work around those challenges and to build a business that eventually become profitable or provide value to the end customers.
Mhm.
Um,
Mm.
in Kenya, would you say that the government has done enough for farmers? And what do you think they can do better?
Mhm. So in the Kenyan setting, I mean, we've seen a number of players come in to try to make policies and structures around farming. But I think, like you've asked, I'll start with government. And from my perspective, what I think government needs to do, they need to have a 360-degree conversation with these SME players, right? Because they have a significant impact in the Kenyan economy.
Mhm.
And once we have such conversation with these players, then and only then can government come about and make structures and frameworks that support this positive impact that's being made by SMEs. And what I mean is, things like single digit interest rates,
Mhm.
things like funding. I think you can support me when I say that for young businesses, funding is very important.
Yeah.
Without funding, it's very easy for a business to implode. So having such conversations and including small scale farmers in this case in the conversation around within making of these policies, I think would be very important.
Huh. My
Mhm.
interesting. In terms of technical competence, how have you managed your staff? Do you invest in training or you go after hands that are already well educated or experienced?
Mhm. So, okay, with our current setup, we're looking to make an impact within our immediate community where these farms are set up. So once we set up a farm, we do get a workforce from the neighborhood
Mm-hmm.
that we train for about 2 weeks on the produce that we're going to put down for that season. And I think this has, in a way, gone ahead to benefit even the society around because once these people go back to their homesteads, to their home, they're able to apply the same knowledge in their own farming, in their own farms. So we look at the quality of produce coming out of that area is significantly improved after the trainings that we have in place. But in terms of employees and recruitment and stuff like that, we mostly contract professionals on project basis. So if you ever came to our offices, the team is a very small team that I've been with since inception. And I think it works for us to have contracts and people that are coming on board to work on a project. And after that, we'd seek them out if need be. Yeah.
Wow, interesting. And like I asked the previous speaker, have you had to fire anyone before?
Well, very fortunate not to have had that experience because I think one of the value that really drives us at Ver International is that you need to honor a pledge you make to your colleagues. What I mean is, if you say you're going to get a task done by Tuesday 4 p.m., no one is going to follow up. No one is going to send you a chase email. You just need to honor that pledge and do it to the best ability that you can. And I think that way we've been able to move our operations smoothly.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you see Vert International in 3 years?
In 3 years, interesting. I see us championing the use of green energy in farming because that is something that is very dear to us as a company. Because we all know that renewable energy and farming is a winning combination, right? Mm-hmm. And these are resources that could be harvested for a lifetime. So in 3 years, like you've asked, I see us championing the use of renewable energy and also having some of this energy offloaded to our immediate communities so then they can benefit. So for example, if there's a farmer that has grains to dry within the area, they could come into our facility and dry them using solar energy, a machine using solar energy. And that for us would be a win in 3 years.
That is really a good perspective to this. And so since this is your focus for the next 3 years, I guess, or that's your goal, how important is, embracing green energy to farmers?
Okay. I think even going off of the SDGs and a lot of the conversations that are going around our planet at the minute, we have the call to reduce our carbon footprint, right? Mm-hmm. And the only way to do this is to reduce the overdependability that we currently have on fossil fuel. And what better direction to take if not green energy? So for farmers, especially in Eastern region and other regions that we've been in Kenya, I've noticed that there's a lot of reliance on the grid, which sometimes can be a bit challenging, as we all know. So having support systems that, say, leverage wind power or solar energy, it would first of all significantly reduce the overheads for these farmers and also would provide a lifetime of sustainable income for them because they're able to sustainably run the operations within their farms and within their companies and even their homes. They could use these to power their homes and such like processes. Yeah.
So COVID has happened, and like you said, there has been a lockdown in various cities, and entrepreneurs and farmers across Africa are feeling the brunt of it because you don't have access to market, access to farming inputs. Things aren't the same, and like the last speaker said, it probably won't be the same for a long period of time. What is your advice to smallholder farmers? How can they survive this period?
Okay. Out of the door, just make sure first of all you're very flexible because these are very uncertain times we're living in, and a lot of the things that are being thrown at us are for some of us the very first time, right? So if you have a very open mindset and you're not rigid in your processes and in what you do, I think it would be very easy for you to navigate these times because you'd be able to tailor your solution or tailor your processes to sort of adapt to the times that we're living in. So for example, if you yourself used to ferry your produce to market and something like what is going on in Kenya, there's a lockdown in some cities, you'd need to find a player that would do this for you, of course, at a cost, but efficiently as well. So this is what I mean when I say that you need to be very flexible and you need to be very open-minded. I think would be the best strategy for entrepreneurs and farmers during this time.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Dennis. It was an honor having you, and looking forward to the success of Vet International. And maybe when we visit Kenya, we'll get to see.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you
Mm,
so much. I mean, excellent interviewing skills from yourself as well.
thank
And
you.
big thanks to the team behind all of this and everyone who's tuned in. I'm really looking forward
Yeah,
to hearing from you.
yeah. Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, you too, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining this week's episode of our docu series, which is Tell Africa Farmer Stories, where we basically profile farmers from across Africa, the people that are keeping us alive with the food that they produce in the farm. And we talk about the challenges, we talk about solutions, and we basically show you, life from their perspective, because it's easy to get carried away from our everyday life and forget, or carried away with our everyday life and forget, that there are people that are actually working hard to keep us alive, and those are the farmers. This was brought to you by the Support for Africa Initiative, or the Support for Africa campaign, in conjunction with Business Day newspaper and Clark Energy. And thank you for everyone that has made this possible, including the team behind the scenes that you can't see. Thank you once again, and see you next week.